The world just hit a wall. Not a military wall, a political one. In a dramatic move, major global powers have blocked a United Nations plan to authorize force in the Strait of Hormuz, a decision that could reshape the entire conflict, because when the UN cannot act, everything changes. At the center of this standoff are three key players: Vladimir Putin of Russia, Xi Jinping of China, and Emmanuel Macron of France. Three major powers, three veto-capable voices, and one clear message: no authorization for military force. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what the UN actually does in situations like this. The United Nations Security Council is responsible for maintaining international peace and security. When conflicts escalate, it can authorize collective military action, coalitions, naval operations, peace enforcement missions. But there's one rule: permanent members can veto any resolution, and that's exactly what just happened. So what was being proposed? A plan to authorize force to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, to ensure free navigation, to protect oil shipments, and to counter threats against commercial vessels. On paper, it sounds straightforward: protect global trade, stabilize energy markets, prevent escalation. But geopolitics is never that simple. Because for Russia and China, this is not just about shipping lanes, it's about power, influence, and control. Both countries have strong economic ties to Iran, energy partnerships, trade agreements, strategic cooperation. Allowing a UN-backed military operation against Iranian-controlled waters would shift the balance toward the West, toward US-led coalitions. And that is something they are not willing to accept. France's position adds another layer. While traditionally aligned with Western interests, France has also pushed for diplomatic solutions, avoiding escalation, preventing a wider war. The result? Deadlock. No resolution, no authorization, no coordinated international response. And that leaves a dangerous gap, because while diplomats debate, the situation on the ground continues to evolve. The Strait of Hormuz remains under pressure. Shipping is disrupted. Oil flows are uncertain, and energy markets are reacting. This is where the real impact begins. Without UN authorization, any military action becomes unilateral or coalition-based. That changes legitimacy, it changes perception, and it increases the risk of escalation. Because actions taken without UN backing can be seen as more aggressive, more provocative, and that raises the stakes. At the same time, inaction carries its own risks, because if the strait remains blocked, the global economy feels it. Oil prices rise, shipping costs increase, supply chains tighten, and that pressure builds quickly. This is why the Strait of Hormuz is so critical. Nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes through it. A disruption here is not regional, it is global. Countries across Europe, Asia, and beyond depend on that flow. And now, they are watching as the political system designed to manage crises struggles to respond. This creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is dangerous because it forces countries to make decisions independently, to act based on national interests rather than coordinated strategy. That can lead to fragmentation, different responses, different timelines, different objectives. And in a conflict environment, that increases the risk of miscalculation. So what happens next? There are a few possible scenarios. First, diplomatic efforts intensify. Back-channel negotiations, attempts to find compromise. Second, regional coalitions act independently. Naval escorts, limited operations, without UN backing. Third, the situation escalates further. More attacks, more disruption, wider conflict. Each path carries risk. But the key takeaway is this: the global system designed to manage crises is under strain. And when that system cannot act, the burden shifts elsewhere, to individual nations, to alliances, to military forces on the ground. For now, the Strait of Hormuz remains at the center of the storm, a narrow waterway with global consequences, and a political deadlock that could determine what happens next. Because in modern geopolitics, power is not just about weapons, it's about decisions. And right now, the most important decision is not being made.